Hello, I'm doing a mic test. Today I'll be sharing this YouTube live to students worldwide to prepare for the prelim examinations in Singapore, the 2022 prelim examinations. So, mic test. Today I'll be sharing this YouTube live to students worldwide to prepare for the prelim examinations in Singapore, the 2022 prelim. Okay, so now I'll do the recording live. Good afternoon, parents. This is Mr. Howard Yu. I'd like to share with you the importance prelim questions that may come out for your child's examinations on the 23rd of August 2022. So this is a screen share. I hope that you can see my screen share over here. And this is actually one of the topic that the students have learned in my training in the past week. This is actually the Punggol Primary School 2021 prelim examinations. So you can actually visit my YouTube channel to see these detailed explanations of the questions. But today I just want to highlight some important questions that may appear in the coming prelim examinations for your children in Singapore. So my YouTube channel, as you can see, is One Academy Science Howard. One is the numeric one, as you can see in my background here, the One Academy, the logo. So it's One Academy Science Howard YouTube channel. So this is one questions which student must know about the characteristics of mammals. So beside these, the mammals also have the characteristic that they are warm-blooded, and also the female mammals, they produce milk for their young. And the respiratory organs for fish is actually lungs, and for mammals is lungs. For mammals is lungs, and for fish organism B is the gills. So, and also during this process of photosynthesis, the aquatic plants is able to produce oxygen for the organisms in the pond. Okay, for this kind of questions, students are required to state the characteristics which help the seed to stay longer in the air. Because the questions allocated here is explain how the hair-like structures of seed X helps it to be dispersed. So you must mention that this hair-like structure helps seed X to stay afloat longer in the air. So by staying longer in the air, as the wind blows, they can be dispersed to a further distance from the parent plant. And I like this question because some students, they do not understand what is a hypothesis. So in this question, they say, based on the above experiment, state mark hypothesis on how the hair-like structures affect the distance d. So as you see, as the height is being increased, the distance d will be increased. So they ask you to state Mark's hypothesis. So the answer is very simple. The presence of hair-like structures will increase distance d. Okay, because here they say they drop from a height and measure distance d traveled by the seed as shown. So he repeat this with x and y. So can you see why they don't have any hair-like structure? So I put a cross here, and x, there's a present. So the difference between these two seeds is one with hair-like structure, one is without. So therefore the hypothesis must be able to test whether the presence of hair-like structures will affect distance d. So actually, to be more specific, you should say that the hypothesis is the presence of hair-like structures will increase distance d. Okay, alternatively, some students may put the absence of hair-like structures will decrease distance d. Both are correct. Okay, next, this is also another question students have difficulty in understanding about a fair test. So Mark used two seeds, right? So they say give a reason how using seeds of similar mass help to make the experiment a fair test. So you should say that so that there's only one change variable And what is this change variable? It is actually the presence of hair-like structure on the plant. And why this is a fair test? Because Mark can be sure that the result of the experiment are only due to the change variable and not the mass of the seed. So if you refer to my book which I published, now I'm doing a screenshot of my book, and one of the pages about the change variable is actually listed here. Can you see? The purpose of the control setup. This is on page 39 of my book entitled Mastering P5 PSLE Science OEQ Open-Ended Questions Investigative Reasoning. So in this part, I told students how to explain about control setup, okay, to show that any difference in the variable measured is only due to the change made. So this can be related to this question to make the experiment a fair experiment. So this change variable is the presence of the hair-like structure. Okay, next. So this is quite easy. You can actually visit my YouTube channel to see this. And also as well as this. Okay, this question is actually quite unique. Okay, students need to know the presence of stomata or the functions of stomata. There are three functions: gaseous exchange, which are considered two because oxygen and carbon dioxide can be taken in or can be removed from the stomata, as well as water vapor. So these questions which I like to draw your attention is this. They say explain how closing the tiny openings at night help plant pea in the photosynthesis process the following morning. So this question actually tests the students or the candidates' understanding that water is needed for photosynthesis. So by closing the tiny openings, this will reduce the water vapor being lost at night, because water vapor is being released when they are not in use. So the leaf will not dry up and be able to use the water to photosynthesize the following morning. Or you can say that the water being conserved can be used to increase the rate of photosynthesis, because photosynthesis, as you see in my book, in one of the required memorization, is actually needed for photosynthesis. So if you can see this book I published, and this is the photosynthesis equation here. Water is needed. So carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light and chlorophyll, glucose and oxygen is being produced. So I published this in my book on page 31. And you can actually scan this QR code here to watch my video teaching if you have the hard copy. Even now with your phone, you can actually try scanning this. If you're watching my YouTube live, you can try to scan this and it will lead you to another YouTube channel. You can use your mobile devices to scan. Likewise, the reverse is also true. Respiration. Okay, this process is respiration. Respiration uses oxygen because all living things respire. So respiration happens all the time. Sugar in the presence of oxygen produces water, carbon dioxide, and energy. So energy is the main thing that is being produced during respiration, and also carbon dioxide is being released. So coming back to this question, okay, and let's continue with this composition of air. You can visit my YouTube channel to understand this. Okay, I'd like to discuss this question. As you can see, now as you watch the Prime Minister National Day Rally 2022, that mask wearing will soon be not necessary in an enclosed environment in the shopping mall, but we will wait for the Safe Management SMM to announce. So as you know that for the past years we've been wearing masks, and actually masks restrict the amount of air being inhaled per breath. So you can see this person, Sue, her breathing rate in two situations. One, she's actually wearing a mask while jogging, and the other, she's not wearing a mask. And she performed this activity at the same intensity, at the same speed. So in this question, they ask you which graphs shows Sue's number of breaths when she was jogging with the mask worn. So you should indicate the higher one because you have to explain the answer. Wearing mask restricts the amount of air being inhaled per breath. Okay, because here is talk about per breath. One breath, two breaths. Okay, so wearing mask will restrict the amount of air being inhaled per breath. Therefore, Sue needs to take in more breaths to obtain the same amount of oxygen for the same activity. So this is explanation for this. Okay, so actually wearing mask, right, did not reduce the percentage of oxygen because the percentage of oxygen in the air stays the same at about 21%. But actually wearing mask restrict the amount of air because air is a composition of nitrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide and water vapor and other gases. So it must be very specific. You should say wearing mask restricts the amount of air being inhaled per breath. So for example, this activity, as let's say do a 100-meter sprint, okay, I need about, let's say, 700 ml or milliliters of oxygen to perform this activity. But by wearing the mask, right, so maybe per breath, right, compared to one without wearing mask, let's say per breath without wearing mask is about, just for simplicity, 20 ml of oxygen I can take in per breath without wearing mask. But if I wear the mask, instead of 20 ml, I could only 15 ml. So you can calculate, right, there's 5 ml less per breath of oxygen being inhaled. So in order to have the same amount of oxygen for the same intensity level, I must take in more breaths, okay, more breaths per minute in order to have the same amount of oxygen for that activity level or for that intensity level. So this make this very clear. Take note of this. And then also another thing I need to highlight to students because of the carelessness. Okay, you know, in some questions, the experiment shows the amount of bubbles. Okay, can you see here? Number of bubbles produced per minute. But in the question, they do not ask you the number of bubbles. They ask you, in this case, the rate of photosynthesis. So you must do auto conversion. Okay, auto conversion, just like you go to the MRT, you tap that one, right? Auto gate open. So now you must convert the number of bubbles per minute to the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, to make this thing very clear, initially there were no readings here. They only have 30. So I added the 10 and the 50 degrees Celsius to help students to use the graphs and the units there to explain the observation. So they say, based on Ali's experiment, explain how the temperature of water in glass container affects the rate of photosynthesis in the water. So this answer should be, from 10 to 30 degrees, the rate of photosynthesis increases, as you can see here, right? So if the student is not careful, the student will write, from 10 to 30 degrees Celsius, the number of bubbles produced per minute increase. And then from 30 to 50, the number of bubbles produced decrease. The student will get a wrong answer. Even though the student understood the concept perfectly, but the student failed to convey what the examiner wants. Okay? Even as a marker of the examinations, I would have understood the student thought process. But the student was very careless because the student did not auto-convert to the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, technically it's correct because the number of bubbles produced per minute corresponds to the rate of photosynthesis. But you must do the written conversion so that the examiner mark. So students, do be very careful because this our question is to test whether which student is careful, which student is careless. Because this is the MOE system in Singapore, we want to sieve out those who are more careful so that they can be prepared for more delicate tasks, perhaps in the civil service, on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where mistakes cannot be made. Okay, so this is one general testing of students to be more careful. So once again, the student must convert. Okay, from 10 to 30 degrees, the rate of photosynthesis increases. From 30 to 50 degrees, the rate of photosynthesis decreases. Okay, so do take note of this. And okay, because they say explain, right? Yeah, explain. So why do you think this happened? So I've included one more statement behind. Because the amount of dissolved carbon dioxide in water decreases from 30 to 50 degrees Celsius, thus lowering the rate of photosynthesis. Because as you know, as the amount of carbon dioxide increase, the rate of photosynthesis should increase. As I mentioned in my book here, can you see photosynthesis? They depend on carbon dioxide. So if carbon dioxide increase, the rate of photosynthesis will also increase. There's been more oxygen will be produced, more glucose will be produced. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, this is a very commonly tested questions in food carrying tubes. So student got to understand food carrying tubes is in the outer ring. Okay, outer ring. And also they like to ask this sort of question, why certain fruit is bigger. So this is the most detailed explanation. Explain what caused the difference in size of fruit A and B. So you should see that fruit A and most of the leaves were above the cut at X. This X here, okay, above this cut. Because at point X or position X, the food carrying tubes are being removed. Food carrying tubes are the outer ring one. Okay, thus, the leaves above X could not transport food to the parts of the plant below X. Understood? Very, very clear, right? Because you cut at point X. So the food made by the leaves above X could not be transported to the part below cut X. So most of the food will be transported to A, or fruit A, causing it to grow bigger in size. And fruit B could no longer receive food from the leaves above the cut at X. So it received less food and remained almost the same size. So this explain, and this is a 2-mark questions, okay? So do take note of this. Very likely such questions will appear in prelim. Another mass bearing questions, and this I reiterated many times, umpteen times. Explain how the glass become misty, okay? Because if you wear a mask loosely, right, you must mention the water vapor from his nose is able to escape and contact with the lens at a lower temperature and form water vapor. Okay, do take note of this special thing here, which I want to enlarge slightly so that I can draw your close attention to it, and I change it to a blue underlined part. Okay, do take note, you must mention the warmer water vapor. Okay, the warmer water vapor from his nose lose heat to where? To the cooler lenses and condense into tiny water droplets. Okay, do not write the warmer air. Okay, it's actually water vapor. Why cannot warmer air? Those students in one academy should answer very well, because air is a mixture. Because if you say warmer air, it means that when the air reaches the cooler part of the lens, they will lose heat and condense to form liquid oxygen or liquid nitrogen, which is very, very cold. So do take note, students, those who are not in one academy. Okay, take note, you must write warmer water vapor, not warmer air. Do take note, especially for examiners, those who are marking exam questions. Yeah, because I know that some teachers, they are not PSLE trained to mark the open-ended, but I'm very thankful I have given 3 opportunities to mark the actual PSLE science examinations when I was a teacher representing Pei Hwa Presbyterian Primary School, and I marked the PSLE section B for 3 consecutive years with excellent performance. So that's why it's important to use the correct word. There's a difference between air and water vapor. Okay, because water vapor is when water evaporates, it changes to the gaseous form, whereas air is a mixture. So typically on Earth, we have acknowledge that the percentage of nitrogen is 78%, oxygen 21%, and carbon dioxide due to global warming. So now we have accepted a new value as 0.04%. So the remaining 0.96% is the water vapor plus other rare gases. Okay, so next one, very important. Usually the following question they will ask you. Explain why more mist was found in his lens when he was in an air-conditioned room compared to a non-air conditioned room. So for this question, the student must understand the concept of temperature difference or temperature gradient in secondary school. So the greater the temperature difference between the warmer water vapor and the cooler surface of the condensing surface, the higher the rate of condensation or the more water droplets will be formed. So you should say that in an air-conditioned room, the temperature difference between the lenses and the water vapor from his nose was greater than the water vapor loss. Okay, it was greater, and the water vapor lost more heat to the cooler surface of the lens. Thus, more water vapor condensed into tiny water droplet in an air-conditioned room than a non-air-conditioned room. Okay, so you must talk about temperature difference. Okay, if this part, right, is challenging for students who has difficulty in writing such a long paragraph, in fact, I have good news for you. Because you see, as PSLE science marker, we are told that if students write in point form and the points are correct, even short answers will be given full marks. So how? Okay, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will release the secret to you next week. But now I let you know for this question, okay, how to write in point form and get full marks. Okay, student, listen carefully. So for those of you who have difficulty in writing such a long coherent paragraphs, you can write in point form. So you just say that the temperature difference between the lens and the water vapor from the nose is greater in air-conditioned room than in non-air-conditioned room. The greater the temperature difference, the greater the condensation. Okay, so you just remember this. Greater temperature difference, greater condensation. Okay, so how you want to put it is up to you. But you must identify which is the greater temperature difference. So in this situation, the greater temperature difference is in the air-conditioned room, okay, than in the non-air conditioned room. So greater temperature difference will result in more condensation or higher rate of condensation. That means we'll form more mist. Okay, just have more mist. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel to learn about shortcuts to get full marks in your open-ended question. Okay, next, this question is about comparing frictional force. So you can screenshot this because time is running out as my wife is calling me for dinner or go for my haircut. So do take note of this. So when you mention about frictional force, you might mention the surfaces. Okay, so take note, screenshot this, and also this as well. Act as a lubricant. It will decrease the amount of friction between where? Between him and a grass slope. So try to achieve 5 marks for such questions. Okay, this one is about another experimental design question. Okay, so you can screenshot this and visit my YouTube channel for more. Okay, energy conversion. I just want to spend a little time on this. So they say, explain in terms of energy conversion why the ball flew higher when this person pressed down part X further. So when he pressed down part X, right, this part further, the catapult will store more elastic potential energy. Okay, so you see, when Vignesh pressed down X further, the ball will have more elastic potential energy from the elastic band. So more elastic potential will be converted to more kinetic energy. Okay. Okay, so do take note of this as well as this. So yeah, so this is what I like to share with you. This is the last questions, and this design is actually quite a real life application. So this is an electrical setup, and usually they ask you the first question, state the property of the contact. So this contact must be conductors of electricity, okay, and give a reason, because when the person fell off the bed, right, so there's no weight pressing down, the spring will spring upwards and cause this contact to touch each other and form a closed circuit, and will turn on the alarm buzzer and also the lights. Okay, so you can screenshot this, and this is a very good questions, answering this for 2 marks. And I hope you can tomorrow can check your paper before you hand in. So once again, just a recap. Okay, to do well in your section B, you must be able to answer the questions well. So this is my recommendation for parents and students. How do you allocate your time? So can you see section A is 28 marks, 28 questions, sorry, and 56 marks. So try to target to score above 48. If possible, you score 50. And this one, you use about 45 minutes to complete, maximum. For section B, 60 minutes or 1 hour. Okay, there are about 12 to 13 questions, ranging from 2 to 5 marks each questions. So this is how the format has changed since 21/7. I'd like to encourage parents, for those of you who need additional help, you may contact me through this number if you need additional classes. And my remaining classes are actually a few more sessions. As you can see here, I'm actually doing this online training from 4:30 to 6 p.m. on the remaining Saturdays. So this coming Saturday will be the 27th of August. I will do an overall review of part 1 and pupils Q&A, because by this week I will receive some questions of paper in the prelim and also discuss some of the questions. And also just before the actual PSLE, only for my One Academy students, I'll be giving them an additional class on 1st October. It's a bonus revision. Quite likely I will do it on site or online, depends on the demand. And also on the 3rd of October, there's an online math lecture during this timing, which students can enroll for my training. So for those who really want to chiong, you can consider chionging on this, which is also my training. This is the 2 days PSLE science training during the September holiday. It's on Monday and Tuesday. The on-site classes has been filled, so I only left with online classes. And actually I've extended the early bird rate to 25th. Actually today is the last day for the early bird rate. So I highly encourage parents to quickly register, because I kept at a maximum capacity of only 18 students for my online class during these 2 days of September holiday. So my contact is 8268-5299. So I wish you all the best in tomorrow's prelim examinations, and have a good night rest. And students in One Academy, do review the book you have, and also the last 2 sessions of mock prelim questions, which I've uploaded into my One Academy Science channel. So students who are not in my channel, do subscribe, like, and share. And I wish you all the best in your prelim examinations as well as your PSLE science paper. So this is Mr. Howard Yu, sending my greetings to every one of you. Take care, God bless, stay safe.